This episode is sponsored by SmartVestor. Connect with an investing pro for free at RamseySolutions.com/invest. You're listening to Ramsey Everyday Millionaires, where we talk investing, retirement, building wealth, and outrageous generosity.
Sam is in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Hey, Sam, what's up?
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me on the show.
Sure. How can I help?
So I'm an independent financial advisor, and I use your investing strategy in a lot of accounts that I have for clients. I love it. You know, I've definitely seen strong performance with it. And so one question I sometimes come across is, you know, within clients' 401k plans that they have, their investment options are often pretty limited. So I was wondering, with your philosophy, I try to follow it in there, but sometimes the international fund options are pretty lousy, as you know. So I was wondering if it's okay within a 401k plan to maybe follow like a little bit less strict to, the exact strategy, and maybe just use like a large cap, mid cap, and small cap fund, and kind of nix the international. But I was just wondering, just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
That's a very intelligent question by your customer. You've done a good job because you've taught them well to where they are looking at the track records, because of the four categories: growth and income, aggressive growth, and international. The international category among those four underperforms the other three dramatically, including in my portfolio. So I'm really impressed that they actually figured that out. That means that that you did a good job teaching them to look at their long-term track records. So much so, Sam, that 2 years ago, I had my personal SmartVestor Pro that handles my mutual funds. He and I are always bouncing ideas about our advice back and forth, because there's nothing in the Bible about this. This is it's a Dave idea, okay? It's not something that can't be wrong. It could be wrong. And I'm looking at it going, these internationals suck. And I've got good ones. I got I got the highest performing, and they still are underperforming the others. And so I called my guy and I'm like, hey, let's run some hypos. Let's run some hypotheticals. You know what that is, where you run but for the audience,
right.
That's where you run, go back 20 years, go back 25 years and say, what if I had run just growth and income, aggressive growth, and did not have international? Even go back 50 years and do that, and run me some hypotheticals out on my four categories or the three categories without, and let's see if the diversification even makes sense, because over time, the diversification should make you more money. You and I know that, right, Sam, right? And this category sucks so bad, I was just like, I think I may change my advice after all these years and pull it out. Well, we ran those hypotheticals out, and the weirdest thing happened. We made less money because in the inverse market, because and I couldn't figure out why at first, and he and I finally traced it down. What we figured out is the internationals run about inverse of the others. And so when the market swings up and is doing real good like it is right now, the internationals are sucking wind, and that's when you notice them. When the market takes a dive down, the internationals hold or pick up, and that diversification then ends up making you more over the long haul as a concept. Okay, now that's a different part. That's an overarching thing on the Ramsey advice of the four mutual funds. So me and him came to the conclusion it's probably a good idea to leave it in there. Even though when I look at their returns, I just kind of want to puke a little, and so it's just awful. But anyway, but back to your particular thing, anytime I'm inside of a 401k, and any one of the four categories has only extremely weak, I don't know if I would leave it out, but I might not do fourth.
Right.
I might do 10%.
That was my question.
Yeah, maybe 10% in a weak sister, and then up the others to, 33 or something, that kind of a thing. Or 30 it would be, I guess. But something like that. I like to have the flavor of that inverse relationship in there if I can get at it. An example of that would be when we're making TSP recommendations, we do not tell people to do fourth in the thrift savings plan. We tell them to, because honestly, those indexes that they put in that thing, most of them are just horrid. The C plan,
that's the problem. It's so bad.
Yeah, the C plan outperforms everything else so drastically in the TSP that we finally said, okay, we're going to do 80% C 10 international, or 10I, which is their international, and 10S, which is their small cap. And so 80-10-10 is our TSP recommendation. And that's a similar question to what you're asking about a particular 401k. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I guess that was primarily my question because, like, within accounts I manage, like, we can go through fund selection and find something that's, pretty decent for international category, but it tends to be tougher when, the options are limited within a 401k
exactly.
or 403b or something like that. So
exactly.
that makes total sense.
Yeah, that's more like the TSP in that situation, and I would just change the ratios somewhat. But again, you are obviously well-versed in this stuff as an advisor, and the thing that people forget is the power of diversification. Having some money in different things is very important. So even if it's just a little, maybe we don't want quite as much Tabasco in there as we want other things, but we do need the spice in there, And my mouth just watered. And
and Sam, I was going to say exactly word for word what Dave just said. All that stuff about C funds, I was going to do exactly that same. So kudos to you, Dave. I'll let you take that one and just kind of run with it, and you're right on.
Okay.
That's good.
Thanks,
That's
John.
good.
Thanks for covering for me there. I appreciate it. Let me talk.
That's good.
You
got to get your voice back in this show a little bit.
Yeah. What's interesting, folks, is the Bible does say in Ecclesiastes, spread your portions to 7, yes to 8, for disaster may come upon the land. Now, keep in mind, Ecclesiastes is not the positive thinking book of the Bible, okay? Pretty much everything in there is the world's coming to an end, you're going to die.
It's the choose reality book.
It's worse than that. It's the we're all going to die book. It's the zombie apocalypse is on the way, it's all this. So, but yeah, spread your portions to 7, yes to 8, for disaster may come upon the land. Fauci may come upon the land. Spread your portions to 7, yes to 8. Some people might vote wrong. Spread your portions to 7, yes to 8. And in other words, diversification, not necessarily the 4 types of mutual funds I talk about, but not having all your money in one thing, your portions 7, yes to 8, diversification is biblical.
And I think it's important, you said this, but to double click on it, when you have what I call a fail-safe or a stopgap, or we get a lot of grief for telling people to put an emergency fund in a high-yield savings account, just leave it alone. It's not to. It's to be there when you need it. I like the idea of there being what feels like a drag sometimes, but man, when the market goes south and this thing has proven over time to hold steady or to kind of buoy everything,
yeah,
I like it. That's discipline, right? I'm gonna keep doing the hard thing, even though I look at it and get frustrated. But over time, it proves itself out.
Well, when I was young and rash, I only wanted to invest in things that were going straight up.
That's right. But I see that on Instagram and TikTok that they do that too, and they're going to fall off a cliff, right?
Exactly. And so you would only buy an aggressive growth stock mutual fund then, a small cap fund.
Because the world's just going to always be...
Yeah, it's always going to be high tech.
Yeah, you don't have that wisdom.
It's going to have the high tech in there. It's going to have all the startups in there. It's going to be exciting. But that's also the one that falls the fastest as soon as the market turns down.
That's right.
And then you'll be glad you got the boring growth and income, which is really seriously boring. It's awful. It never does anything. It just sits there. Oh, God.
But
you're so glad you have it when the market turns down.
I was going to say, you know what's boring?
Being broke.
Diet, nutrition. Being a good person.
Mental health.
Was that the old...
spiritually.
The worst part about being a Christian is that it's every single day. You can never wake up on the first day of the month and memorize all 5 books of...
You know what? This week, I'm just going to raise hell.
Yeah, next week, like the worst part about exercise is you just got to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then again the next day. And you look up over time and you have a healthy life, right?
Yeah, it's worth it. Yeah,
it's worth it.
No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but it yields a harvest of righteousness.
Thanks for tuning in to Ramsey Everyday Millionaires. To learn more about investing, visit RamseySolutions.com/investing or click the link in the show notes. Ramsey Solutions is a paid non-client promoter of participating pros. Learn more at RamseySolutions.com/SmartVestor.